Greetings and salutations, my beautiful people. Welcome to another instalment of CINEMAGGOTS. The time is 1:35 a.m.
Tired.
Very tired, but we went to see this film and it was just going to be a date night, right?
Yeah.
We weren't planning on doing anything with this. We weren't going to make a video or anything. But after watching it and after everything that's happened tonight, I felt like we had to come home and we had to get the camera ready and have to talk about...
We couldn't even sleep on it.
No. We have to talk about Flatliners.
Yay!
It's apparently a remake of another film called Flatliners. And Stan's shaking over there. And the problem with Flatliners, majorly, from the starting gate, is that it basically flatlines. That's basically what it does. It just gives up the second it begins, and it is so enjoyably terrible. I've never seen the original. I didn't even realise it was a remake or a reboot or whatever you want to call it. But from the second it began, and the first 5 minutes, I knew that we were going to be in for a treat. And
it was a treat.
It was a
treat that kept on giving.
It was. I mean, from the second this film begins, you see Ellen Page with her, what I thought was her daughter, but it wasn't, it was a sister. And she's an idiot and texting while she's driving.
Very bad.
Because that's gonna end well, isn't it? And then she crashes into the back of a lorry or something. And instead of just ploughing into the back of the lorry, somehow completely flips the fucking thing 360 degrees right over in a circle and falls right over a bridge. And that's how it starts. And then it cuts to some credits that look incredibly television showy.
It's very TV
It's
show.
very Casualty. So it cuts to credits like that, and then immediately it says 9 years later. So you get like 30 seconds of the most ridiculous car crash in the world, and then it cuts to seriousness. But then it doesn't cut to seriousness because it cuts to Ellen Page 9 years later, who looks younger 9 years later than she did in the first scene.
Yes.
And then she's talking with a patient who had she had a stroke or something, or
I don't know. There was something.
her heart stopped and they got her back to life.
Yeah.
And she was asking her what did she see, if she saw anything in the afterlife or anything. And then the first thing she says is, "You lost someone, didn't you?" Because she did. She lost her sister in this accident.
And then that was it.
That was it. It's just done to be spooky, and then it's never brought up again. And it just keeps on getting worse from there.
Getting worse, but equally getting better.
Yeah.
At the same time. It was very strange. I loved it.
I mean, it follows on.
It was so bad.
There was television music-y doctor music.
Dr. Plinky Plonk music.
No, it was like...
Yeah, lots of stats.
It was,
and,
it was just loads of doctor talk and loads of doctor-y music from doctor shows. And then fucking...
Lots of stethoscopes and flapping coats.
And it was just all overly dramatic and cheesy, and it was brilliant.
It was great.
And then Kiefer Sutherland appears, who apparently was in the original one. I don't know if he was being the same character but older or what. But he comes in looking like a fucking clown. Because he's got bright white, he looks like he's got a mane of hair that's bright white. It's not even...
that's his real hair.
No, it was clearly a wig or dyed. It was so white. And he walks around with a walking stick, and he's being the teacher of these students in this hospital. And then they're having a brainstorming session about something that happened to a patient. And then out of nowhere, he flips out and is like, "If you guys aren't going to push yourselves, you can get out now." And it's like, he flips out. And then that never happens again. Whenever he comes back in the film, he's quiet.
Someone in the library, I can't remember any of their names.
No.
None of their names. One of
Courtney was Ellen Page. Courtney was her name.
Well, this other girl, she starts crying in the library.
Yes.
And Ellen Page, Courtney, goes over and says, "Oh, are you alright?" But very much like they didn't know each other.
Yeah, it was. They were talking to each other like they just met. And she was just checking.
And then 5 seconds later we find out they've actually known each other forever, and they're in the same classes and blah blah blah.
Yeah. But the conversation they have in even the library isn't what a friend conversation. Like, she's crying. It's like, "Oh, what's the matter? What's the matter?" And she's like, "Oh, my mum has forced my education on me, and she's paid for everything." It's like, okay, great. Why, if you're friends, why you should know this? Why are you you're telling the audience that? I see, it's exposition, I get it. You don't know what their history is, because then there's the other guy character that comes in. The first conversation he has with Courtney, Ellen Page, I couldn't tell if they were old friends, I couldn't tell if they just met, I couldn't tell if they were in the same class. You couldn't tell who liked each other, who didn't like each other. Ellen Page was good, the rest were terrible. And talking about casting and acting and everything, there's another lady part of... Maybe we should explain what the premise of this film...
There's another lady part.
Okay, no, it's another lady part. Flatliners is basically a film about Ellen Page, who's very guilty about her killing her sister because she was an idiot.
It was an accident.
No, it wasn't. She was looking at her phone. Yeah, so she's feeling very guilty about it. So she's trying to figure out what the brain does during your heart stopping and basically dying.
It's the moment between you die, you might regain consciousness or you might not. It's that 3-minute window.
Yeah, it's the window, yeah.
Can you be brought back?
So she's trying to record brain activity and everything to make sure that there's anything that happens and what we can learn from it.
Yeah.
And secretly it's because she wants to somehow contact her sister or some bullshit. That's basically the point of the film. So she gets all these students together who all coincidentally, might I say, all have dark pasts. Every single one. And they basically all start killing each other and bringing each other back to life to see what happens and recording it, and they all feel different afterwards and blah blah. And it's basically, the film is then what happens after they do that and why you shouldn't do that. Going back to the casting, you have this other lady who was in the library who was crying.
Yeah.
And whoever she was, her acting was dreadful.
It was dreadful, but it was funny.
None of her facial expressions matched the situation. Like when she was supposed to look happy, she looked terrified, and when she was supposed to look terrified or stressed, she looked like she didn't care. Some of the lines she said were just ridiculous. There's a bit where she's having a conversation with Ellen Page, and Ellen Page says something funny, and she goes, "Ah!" It's like she turns into a goose for a brief moment, and then everything's normal again. The ginger guy, Jamie, he's the token lad. So
he's only
like,
a lad at the beginning.
But he's only a lad at the beginning. He's about sex and fucking and sex and fucking, but only at the beginning, and then he just drops it.
And then he turns into dying and flatlining and dying and...
Yeah, exactly.
Not any sex. No, he did actually. Yeah. He did.
He did do some
Him
sex,
and
yes.
bad actress lady.
Oh, that was such a funny sex scene. I get the idea was that she was supposed they were both kind of high off of the flatlining, I guess, but
yeah,
it still was like...
She was like, I have a craving, and he's like, what, for Jello or something? And then she's like, no, let him off, and the next thing you know is they're bouncing around in her bedroom, and the mum's knocking on the door, and
they're still going, and it's just, and her face is going nuts, and it's just...
Her face is going nuts!
Yeah, it's so funny. So yeah, and then you have Rogue One guy, I forget his name, I'm afraid I do forget his name, but he's in it, and he is the skeptic of the whole thing, and he thinks that all of this is wrong and it's immoral, but he still does it, and no matter how many times he says, I'm leaving, I'm stopping this,
he comes back.
He keeps coming back for no reason.
I think because he realises he hasn't got any other friends.
No.
They're all in the basement.
Yes, they are.
Dying. And he probably just wanders around being a bit lonely.
Yeah, but he's willingly helping out, despite the fact he keeps on saying over and over again, you shouldn't be doing this, you're all evil, you're all nuts.
He's there to be the fun sponge.
He is the fun sponge, yes.
Normally you're the fun sponge.
Yeah, I am the fun sponge, but he was worse. Then there's the other lady. She starts the film looking like Sandra Bullock. And then she looks like Kirsten Dunst later, and then she, at the end, looks like Julianne Moore. At one point she looks like Emilia Clarke from Game of Thrones when she's drowning. And then... Yeah, she did. And then at the very end, you pointed out, who did she look like?
Victoria Beckham.
Victoria Beckham. Posh Spice. I don't know how she does it, but she morphs her face throughout this film.
She does.
And she's not terrible. She's not terrible.
It's a talent.
But much like her face, the whole film itself, the tone and the direction it has, changes every 5 minutes. It begins as a kind of serious doctor drama about figuring out what happens in the afterlife. Then all of a sudden, Ellen Page comes back to life and she's completely different, and then all of a sudden it turns into psychological horror and she starts seeing things. But that's not enough for her to say, hey guys, because she's the only one that's had it at that point. She doesn't say, hey guys, maybe you shouldn't do this because I'm starting to see things. But no, she just does it anyway.
Yeah.
And bearing in mind that she says at the end of the film that the whole point of the experiment was to see what she could do to see her sister, why the other people start doing it and she doesn't tell them that they shouldn't do it, I don't know. And they all do it because they don't know that there's any side effects, as it were.
Yeah.
And then as soon as that happens, the whole film then turns into kind of Final Destination. Because
it was
then it's like all of their past sins start catching up with them and trying to kill them. And I'd be okay with that idea, but the problem is, first of all, you know that all the shit they're seeing and that's scaring you, all of that stuff is in their head. You know that from the beginning.
Yeah.
You know that they flatlined, came back to life, and now they're seeing things. So none of it has any meaning or suspense, it's all visions.
Yeah.
When Ellen Page then dies by falling off the roof, I have to call bullshit on that whole idea because it goes full on paranormal activity and Ellen Page starts getting dragged through the house. She can't do that herself. So it turns into a ghost story. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, it turns into a film about them having to learn to forgive themselves. But the themes were nothing. It wasn't about learning to forgive your past
Apparently
errors.
it was.
But that wasn't the point of the film until like the halfway point, and then it becomes the entire point. They all kind of decide that they need to confront their sins and forgive themselves.
So they go down the pub.
So they all start meeting the people they've done wrong in
then
the
they
past.
go to the pub.
They have to redeem themselves. It's all very coincidental how it's all these group of people that it only seems to affect. But anyway, so all that happens, and then all of a sudden, Morphing Lady narrates 2 sentences at the end of the film when there was no narration at the beginning, so it doesn't bookend anything.
No.
And then it ends after the narration that should end the film, with them in the pub, and then piano plays, and then they all stand up, and then they sit down again, and then it ends, and it's like the most random bullshit.
They stand up and sit down.
Yeah, that's literally what happens. In the ginger guy's visions, in one of his visions, he gets stabbed in the hand because he probably stabs himself in the hand, but he thinks that someone else is doing it, right?
Yeah.
And then in the next scene, he's just got a bandage around his hand and he's fine. He's just absolutely fine. Scenes just happen one after the other.
Yeah.
1 second you're in the hospital, then in the very next cut, you're on a boat with fire and party and dance music. My favourite bit of the whole film was a bit where it tried to basically catch you off guard, because there's everything in this film that tries to scare you is a jump scare, basically. And there's one bit, I can't remember who it was or what was going on. This puppet, like, it's supposed to be real guy or something, but this puppet just kind of comes in like... I like it when scares like that try to be different, right?
He did jump.
No, I'm not talking about
that
that. No, I'm talking about the stupid one that's like, hello! Because there was no noise or anything.
No, that was Jamie. It was
Oh, was it Jamie? Sorry.
Yeah.
She just came in.
It was like clip art. It was
It just
popped into
popped into behind his shoulder, but there's no music cue, there's no shock noise, and then he turns around and nothing happens. So it's a silent,
Brilliant.
it's a silent scare that doesn't do anything. There wasn't any atmosphere to it or anything. It's just literally a few seconds of, all right, and then that was it.
It was brilliant.
It was so funny. What else doesn't make sense? What else doesn't work in this film? Oh yeah, when she's filming herself because she thinks that she's going mad, Ellen Page, she starts seeing her sister in visions. But she's filming. Does it not occur to her to film what she thinks she's seeing?
No.
She's got the camera and she's filming. Oh yes, when Ellen Page died, her first flatlining experience was basically her brain going on a flying trip, and it flies all over the fucking city, and it goes into a church and into Jesus' face. It's like, oh, religious symbolism as well.
And when she was talking about it with the others afterwards, she says, actually, it was quite sexual.
Yeah, it was quite sexual. Like, what? Going flying in the sky? Like, what? And then Jamie has his vision, and he's like pulling a derp face on a motorbike, like, I'm having a good time on my bike. And then there's the bit where Morphing Lady and Rogue One guy confess their love for each other, and then she goes in to kiss him, and he goes in to kiss her, and then she gets all angry. He's like, oh, you shouldn't have done that. And he's like, oh, I'm so sorry, I'm gonna go. And then she goes, no, wait, don't. And then they just fucking fuck.
No, and then she did some great fishing for compliments afterwards.
Oh, she did, yes.
They were having the obligatory post-coital hug.
Yes.
And then she's like, oh, what do you see in me?
Yeah.
And then he's like, you're hot. And she's like, oh, stop it.
Yeah, they all get drunk, and then Ellen Page goes, oh, I've always wanted a loft, let's knock the wall down. And then they all start fucking...
knocking the walls down.
And then Jamie takes his trousers off and jumps through the wall, and then they're like, and then they're running around outside with hail.
In their pants.
It was just the most bloody stupid thing.
Amazing.
It's just throwaway things, scenes that go nowhere, stupid acting. There's one bit in the film where they all get caught by the cleaners, so they have to escape. So Jamie runs off to distract the cleaners. They all escape in a Mini Cooper, and then all of a sudden Jamie ends up in the car park. And he nearly gets hit by them, and it's just bloody stupid. So do you know what? I can't think of anything else to say about Flatliners.
There is nothing else.
I'm going to do a first in CINEMAGGOTS history. I'm going to give this film a minus score.
So we're introducing the new minus scale.
Minus scale is when a film breaches the line of so bad and becomes entertaining. So if I gave a film a -10, it means it was so shit but very enjoyable. Something like The Room would be a -10, I would say. But it's not the best worst film I've ever seen. There are much better train wrecks than this.
Yeah.
But this, for as far as anything like that took itself this seriously goes and doesn't know what it's doing. Is it a horror? Is it a thriller? Is it about science? Is it about forgiveness?
Is it a TV show?
Is it a TV show? It feels like a TV show. It doesn't know what it's doing. So it's not the best I've ever seen in that sense, but I still very much enjoyed it. So I'm going to give it a -5 out of 10.
That's very generous.
That's very generous.
The fact that I'm still laughing, it's still entertaining me. I'm going to go -6.
-6 for you. Lovely.
Yeah.
-6 maggots out of a rotting horse carcass, which means that horse carcass is inside out.
Oh.
And I'm going to end it there. If it's your birthday today while watching this video, happy freaking birthday to you. Please remember to stay beautiful, and I do recommend you watch this movie.
Definitely.
It's fun.
Definitely go see it.
That's all I've got to say. We had to make this video. Very sorry, everybody.